Okay, I guess we can get started, yeah?
Yes.
Yes. Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
Everybody had good travels in? It was good? Got here uneventfully? Yes, me too. That's always an important thing when we travel. So, well, thank you for joining this session today. I hope that we get you some really good things out of it. We've called this session An Anatomy of a Startup. And a lot of things have changed for me since I saw many of you last year because I began a startup and one that's a bit out of character from my experience. But there are some things that I think we can share today that will be incredibly helpful for you. I'm hoping that there are some aha moments that help you just make the turn in a couple areas of your business. I have to say, about a year ago when I told some folks that I was thinking about doing this, the reaction that I got from many of them looked something like this. I'm sure you all had some similar reactions. Anybody have this reaction from friends and family when you said, hey, I'm going to do this news site thing, I'm going to go into business for myself?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so that happened. And certainly for those of you who don't know me, the business that I went into is we opened a real estate firm, but I'll share with you how that can be very similar and helpful to all of you as well. But that made it even more surprising to folks because my experience for the past 15-ish or more years, depending upon how old I tell you I am only 29. So, you have to start massaging the years a bit, has always been in media. The large majority in media, in advertising, sales, and marketing, and innovation, and several years at the corporate level running enterprises and digital sales. And so when I said, hey, I'm going to make this decision, people really thought I had lost my mind. But I was to the point where I'm guessing that many of you were. How many folks here worked for a major newspaper or a media entity, maybe a corporation, and made the decision to move and go on your own?
A corporation made the decision that I was going on.
We call that getting quit. Yeah, I got quit. So, I found myself after my last stint in corporate and then working with media companies trying to consult them to the other side of the fence, and it's such an enormous demand that I was really at a place in my life that I just wanted to do something for me. I wanted to build something that was mine. I wanted to do something that I loved on my terms. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to do some really good things and have impact in the community, and I wanted to make a big bunch of money. So, and I think that's okay, because I think if you do the other things, wanting to make a big bunch of money, I don't think that's a bad thing to say. Does anybody else want to make a big bunch of money? There's only 3 hands. What's going on? But I would say also, like many of you, we self-funded. So my friends who know me from innovation said, oh, so this is your put your money where your mouth is moment. And it was. So we are all in. So for me, like many of you, failure is not an option. And that's an interesting thing when you talk about new business or business innovation, because failure is part of the process. So I'm going to share today with you some tools that I think will help you situate your businesses so that you can put some planning tools in place to help you fail fast. And learn fast, invest a little, learn a lot, and then make investments or do work for growth in areas that are really paying off, where you're getting good return on investment and good return on effort. And while this career path for me didn't really seem like it was going down, it had built up to go this direction. When I really looked at the construct of the business, the paths were very similar. Because in any business, and particularly the businesses that we are in, there are some core elements that are the same, right? So we all have to identify diverse revenue streams, diverse revenue channels. Diversity in your revenue channels is so immensely important. It's like your grandma said, you can't put all of your eggs in one basket. Anybody's grandmother have that saying? So you have to be able to diversify. If one starts to fall short, you have another one that you can rely on. And that there's some mix in what you're growing in your revenue strategy. We had to develop and engage an audience. A little bit more difficult for my business than yours. You all are in the business of developing audience, but still some really important factors to accomplish. And a similar core building block. We had to execute sales. That's a given. And we had to do it creatively. and creativity and sales execution, it's how we win today. Whatever business that you're in, if there's revenue being generated, I don't care if it's for-profit, non-profit, if there is some turn of money somewhere, you've got to be a bit creative on how you go about it and you approach it. And we, like you, had to be the credible and knowledgeable sources in our community. And we wanted to be the trusted advisors in the communities that we serve. So very similar construct. And let me just say for all of you as well, I will share this presentation, and there are also some worksheets that I will share. I'll share my email address at the end. And if you just email me that you want them, I will send them to you. But of course, running a startup is a lot like getting punched in the face repeatedly, right? But for those of us who've worked for large companies or in corporations, working for a large corporation is like getting waterboarded. So I thought this was a really accurate quote from Paul Graham, who's the co-founder of Y Combinator. But even in spite of that, even in spite of those face punches and those challenges, operating a startup is quite rewarding and breeds a lot of opportunities. What I hope to do today is share about 6 areas or elements, items, questions, however we want to position them, but 6 things that I think might really help you in your businesses and those things that we have worked on in ours that have made an enormous difference. And the first one is kind of asking some hard questions. Identifying really if there's a business opportunity. And so, is everyone in the room in the news business?
Yes.
No? What kind of business are you in?
So we offer support services for media organizations and corporations.
Perfect. So support services, news?
We build websites.
Great. Technology? Anybody else? So in all of those businesses, even the 2 that are not in news, they're not new businesses overall. There are incumbent players in those businesses. There are competitors in your environments. There are other folks who do the things that you do. So you have to really identify if there's a there for you. Is there a business opportunity? This is probably one of the most challenging and difficult questions that any entrepreneur has to ask themselves. When we were working in innovation and we were doing new business startups, this was the area that really got murky for folks because we get entrenched in our idea. We're passionate about what we're doing. And it's difficult to say, okay, I'm going to be just brutally honest with myself and look around at what's going on and see if what I think, the assumption that I'm making, is really a good assumption. And when you make assumptions in business and you don't test those assumptions, you don't explore whether or not you're accurate, you invest money in things that are going to potentially not necessarily work out. You have to have a lens on what your competitors are doing. I recommend doing this exercise every year. Look at the folks in your marketplace, look at what their offerings are, look at what they're doing well, look at what they're not, look at what you think you can do better and how you can win in that space. And really be brutally honest with yourself when you're trying to determine whether or not you have the goods, the offering, the approach that's going to stand out and make a really big difference that will enable you to win. And I wanted to share this. There are 4 major drivers that drive change in consumer behavior. And those are convenience, money, skills, and time. So in innovation, and you are all innovators, you're entrepreneurs, you're innovators. For those of you who are in news, you're disruptive innovators. I'm not sure what you're doing in the website business or the service business, but you may be disruptive innovators as well. And in that case, there are these consumer behavior changes that have to happen, or customer client behavior changes that have to happen in order for you to be able to win. You don't have to serve all of these. And I'm not saying that you can't be successful if you don't meet any of these, but I am saying look at your business offering, look at what you're providing, and see if it meets some of these segments. So consumers will make a change in their habits if you're providing them with convenience, right? If it's easier for them to do than it was before. They'll make a change in their behavior if you're saving them time. It's easier for me, it saves me time, it's more efficient, I can manage it. they will make a change if you can increase their skills in an area that they care about, not just that you care about, right? You can increase their skills. People have to want to increase those skills or gain that knowledge. And if you can save them money or make them money, right? So those are the drivers around the changes in consumer behavior or business behavior, and human behavior, I guess we could say, that will help you identify whether or not you have a there. So my partner and I decided we were going to do a real estate business, and a different kind of real estate business, one that really focused on community, that was entrenched. There are some elements, for me, in my humble opinion, real estate today is a marketing business, and marketing is how I breathe. So it didn't feel like it was such a big difference from where I had been. It felt like it was a great fit, and bringing together skills and elements of folks to create a new business seemed like it made sense. However, we really did need to take this hard look. And what we found was there were gaps in all the areas that we felt like we could win. And we explored them. Now, there were some areas that we thought, hey, we've got a really great idea, a really great approach to this. And when we actually dug a little bit deeper, it was kind of like, wah, wah, right? That happens. If you want that to happen. That should happen. But for us, we found gaps in consumer offerings. We found gaps in agent offerings. And for us, we have 100% commission sellers. And if any of you have 100% commission sellers, does anyone have 100% commission sellers? So those sellers are entrepreneurs. They're in business for themselves. Your job when you're managing them is to try to figure out how you're going to help them be successful in their business, because they're paying their own taxes, they're paying their own expenses, they're utilizing your brands to make a living, your offerings to make a living. So we wanted to see if indeed for us there was a gap in that space. There was a huge one. If there were gaps in the local business environment with just the way our competitors were interacting with them, and if there were gaps in the community with folks who were out there. In all of those areas, we found that there were indeed gaps. There were large gaps on experience, action, integrity, results, and certainly marketing on the consumer side. On the agent side, there was a huge gap in culture and earning capabilities, training, all of the things that make them have the capability to build a good business. In the business environment, there were very few folks who were really working on relationships and partnerships, and particularly there were gaps in the relo area of folks who were working with them to try to encourage folks that they were trying to court to market to move. And then in the community, just in a sense of folks in the community feeling like the people that were in the business that we selected to be in, that were making an impact in the community, was missing. So we really felt that we could win. So just a few differences for us. We treat every home that we market like it's its own entrepreneurial enterprise. We look at it, we do customized marketing, but we really approach it with the homeowner. So and again, there are some things here that are going to apply and some things that you're going to have to reach, to stretch, to find. But for us, this was a customer for us that was really important. And this is something that is most people's largest investment or one of their largest investments, right? So we really position that on how we can get folks the best return. And the entire approach around how we go to market with that is entirely different than what other folks in our area are doing. We work really hard with folks to try to make sure that we're looking beyond whether it's a three-bedroom, two-bath house, the things and the interests that make their great lives, the things that are important to them beyond just where their home is. So what are their personal interests? Are they, if they're runners or they have pets, it's important to be close to parks and walkways or green belts. If they have, if they're musicians, having some space so that they can practice their rock stardom and not have the neighbors call the police is really important. And those elements are what make the difference in that experience. For our agents, we also treat every agent like an entrepreneur, which they are. We customize business coaching for them. We help them build the business that they want to build that fits them. We build their brands. We build their approach. There's no cookie cutters with them. We offer them great tools and support and technology, and they make excellent money. We also partner with businesses. So if they're bringing folks into the market to relo, we promise that we're going to bring back those folks and they're going to love it where we are. And lastly, we make a significant contribution or impact in the community. And this was a really important thing for us when we went into the business. And I'll touch a little bit more on that. So For all of you, I would suggest, if you haven't done that, if you haven't gone through this process to look at what your competitors are doing and really think about how you stand apart, do that. It's worth the exercise, or the Saturday afternoon, or the Sunday morning over your coffee. Do it every year. Really think about it thoroughly. It will, I promise you, make a difference in your success. The second thing that I think is really important, and I think these things are important whether you're just starting, you've been in business for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't think there's ever a juncture here where you shouldn't do these things or that they won't help you with your business. But the second thing is really determine what kind of company you want to build. What kind of company is that? Is it for-profit? Is it nonprofit? Is it cause-oriented? Are you looking to do something that's large, small? Is it something that you just want to make enough so that you don't have to work in your bedroom, or do you want to build a business that employs people and makes a difference in the community? When we looked at that, we said we're going to build a company that operates a bit more like a tech startup than a real estate firm. We're incredibly agile. We are building the house and living in the house at the same time. All of the folks who come into our shop know that we review our technology every 3 months and that it's subject to change. Because technology changes very quickly, certainly in that industry. Everything we do is subject to change. We try everything and test it before we invest. So I'm going to talk with you about 90-day sprints as we progress here, and that's one of the things that I think is a key differentiator in how we operate our business and will help you. There is nothing that we do that we don't think about the return on investment or the return on effort on. Everything, every product line, every idea that we have a conversation that sounds like, hey, that's a great idea. Could we scale that? Is that interesting? Is there an offering out there? Could we turn that into another business line? Could that grow? What would we need to do to be able to do that? And we believe that in our company, we can be both really client-centric and agent-centric at the same time. That we can build a company that has a great work culture, and that we can do that while we do the right thing and act with integrity and share and come from a philosophy of abundance. We also think we can make a difference in the communities that we serve. So for us, a portion of every transaction that we do, every single deal, a portion of that deal, of every single deal, goes towards our Great Life Gives Fund, which goes towards great community, or great things in the community. When we started it, we thought about whether we would just donate it to like a nonprofit or one of those things, but we wanted to have impact. We wanted to make a difference. So we said, and we wanted the folks who were working with us to have some ability to say, I think we really need to apply some funds here. So we made a fund for community impact, and every single person who works with us has equal say in where we spend the money. 100% of the funds go back into the community. There's no management fees, and we'll eventually get to the point where we actually fundraise for it beyond what we generate. So one of our folks come in and say, I drive by a house on my way to work, and there's a tattered tarp that's on the roof, and it's really getting into bad shape. And I made some inquiries in the neighborhood, and I found that there's an elderly woman who lives there who's on a fixed income, and she's a widow with no family locally. She's not ever going to be able to replace that roof. Can we buy her one? And we will. So we wanted to be able to have that kind of community impact and be able to spread that in the communities that we serve. The next thing that I'll say is, as you're thinking about your business, and again, it doesn't matter whether you are 1 year in, 5 years in, 10 years in, 20 years in, wherever you are, although if you're 20 years in, you probably have to think about the next 5 to 7 years, not where you were in the last 5 to 7 years. But see yourself or see your business in 5 to 7 years. Where are you going? What's your long-term vision? And I'm not saying sit down, write down a mega business plan. Some of these things for entrepreneurs, when we think about these and we grab these tools, then it's like an overwhelming effort to just try to figure out how to use the darn tools that we subscribe to online that are going to help us build a business plan that's so great. But you have to have some thought process in what your vision is for where you're going over the next term, the next 5 to 7 years. So you can guide your decisions along the way in order to get there. Because 7 years from now is 90 days away. So we operate in 90-day sprints. So I'm going to anchor here for a little bit, this nest here for a little bit, because I think this is really impactful. And there are a lot of things about this 90-day sprint philosophy that can help you save money, guide and gear your business, test and iterate, enable you to stay focused, enable you to identify what's working for you and what's not. So in this, it really is business planning and execution 90 days at a time. So one of the factors, or one of the things that this enables me to do is, anyone here have shiny object syndrome? And they're, yeah, right? And like, because you're like innovative, and so there are all these really cool things that you want to try. Or you like, or belong to a mastermind group, or one of your colleagues, and they say, oh, we're doing this, and you go, we should do that, right? I can't be the only one who does that. So this 90-day process enables me to say, I think that's great, I want to do that. I want to do what Jay is doing, but I can't do it in this 90-day period because I've got a plan. But I can put it on my next 90-day sprint. And now I can, so what that enables me to do is go, I'm going to do it, and I've got a plan to do it, and it's on my little next, it's on my next sprint shelf. Say that fast 10 times. And so I can block it out of my head because I'm going to be able to do it, and I can stay focused with where I am. And one of the things that happens certainly to me, and I think many entrepreneurs, is there are so many things to do. We have so much to do that you end up running around in this sort of circle of chaos. And there are all, like, I without these plans, I describe myself as I'm in a pinball machine. You know, I'm just like bing, bing, bing. Where am I going next? So this really helps that a lot. It also helps me really measure things and determine specific outcomes that I want to happen as a result of these 90-day goals or strategies that I've put in place. And measure those outcomes to whether they're on track or not, whether I should invest more, or whether that was just a lousy idea that I was excited about, and we need to stop doing that because all it's doing is costing us money. So when I think about our 7-year vision, it's pretty large. I envision us with 13 revenue channels that have multi-prongs within them, about 7 business lines, so separate businesses that spin off this business, multi-state expansion, and licensing and acquisition. So clearly, if I'm going to get here, I've got to have some focus. So we'll see. We'll see in 5 to 7 years if I make it. Now, obviously, this vision is going to change because in entrepreneurship, things change based on how people interact with you. And the assumptions that we make, the ways that we think people are going to respond to our offerings aren't always on track. So we have to have agility to be able to adjust to that. But here's the deal. As entrepreneurs, we know we can't do everything at once, right? But we have to do so many things at once. So we've got to have an organized strategy to do that. And the other thing is just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean you should too. Didn't your mom say, like, so if everybody jumped off the bridge, you would jump off the bridge? Is that what you're telling me? It's like entrepreneurship is the same, particularly when you have folks who are that you mastermind with or that are in similar business, and so they're colleagues, and you get excited about what they're doing. And so sometimes you have to say, but are you making money at that yet? Have you tested that yet? That sounds really cool. How did you go about that approach? So this process helps you. So I'm going to send you this document. If you shoot me your email, I'm going to send you this document. And this is a 90-day plan document. This also, the one that I will send you, is completed. It's probably not relevant to your business, but don't you hate when folks show you examples and then there's nothing in them? So you just look at like a blank sheet and you go, what the heck do I do with this now? So this was completed for a startup business that I helped several years ago. And I would love to say that this strategy and this document, this sprint plan, was my idea. But the truth is, when I was doing innovation for scripts or working innovation for scripts, I had the incredible good fortune to work with some amazingly brilliant Harvard Business School professors and some principals who ran a company called Insight, which specialized in disruptive innovation and was led by Clay Christensen, who wrote The Innovator's Dilemma. So working with those brilliant people, they helped me design this little worksheet so that we could do business startup. So this is their brilliance, but I've adapted it over time. I have to say, it's an amazing tool if you use it. So here's what makes it so impactful to your business. The first one is you assign yourself goals, short-term goals over a 90-day period with specific outcomes. So not a lot. In our business, we have a few more because we're a little bit insane. So I'll share this with you. We typically have a lead generation goal, a finance goal, an operations goal, a recruiting goal, a marketing goal, audience goal. We usually have 7. I'm trying to think what they all are. And one of them in each sprint has some focus. So I'll share that a little bit with you. So right now in this quarter, our focus really is recruiting. But we've aligned ourselves to set up for that from the last sprint. We did our preparation. So anyway, you set your goals 90 days at a time in specific areas of your business. And then set expectations on your outcomes. So I'm just going to nest here for a minute because this is really important. So if you measure everything that you can measure, and you should measure everything that you can measure, how many email list subscribers, how many visits in your audience, all of your analytics, so you measure all of those things. How many advertisers are you calling on? How many advertisers actually buy this thing that you're selling in this quarter or this initiative? For all of your goals, identify the elements that you can measure and then set gates around them to determine your success. So there are 2 areas here that never get attention. The first one is, do you ever have something that's there that you go, okay, that was crap and I'm going to let that go away? How many of you have like fledgling efforts that are just kind of sitting there? Yeah. So if you set a goal around them, you will cut them loose and get rid of them and stop spending money, time, and effort in something that's not working out to give you the return that you wanted. So that's a big thing. How do we know if we fail? How do we just adjust? And how do we know if we're on track? So the other thing is, if we say, let's just say, for example, that this is a new email subscriber line, just for funsies, and that our move forward, our target is 12,000. So if you're putting forward effort to obtain 12,000 new subscribers, and you've only gotten 10,000, so it's working okay, but you probably need to adjust your strategy because you're not on track with what you wanted. So this is the other thing that we typically don't measure. Do we need to adjust? How can we tweak to make it work better? On the other side of this, let's say that you achieved 24,000 subscribers. So you nailed it. You hit it out of the park. It's double your goal, right? So today, do you have a way to say, hey, I'm investing in this effort, and if I surpass this and hit this, I'm going to overinvest. I'm going to just apply more money to this and double down because this is a strategy that's really working. So for me, these are the really key things, and that are missing elements, I think, in most businesses, my humble opinion, but certainly not missing in ours. So we know, as we do these 90-day sprints, what our goals are, our desired outcomes, and we know whether or not it's really working and we should invest more. And for us, just like you, dollars are not, they don't grow on trees. I wish they did, but they don't. So we've got to be very thoughtful about every dollar that we invest and spend and where we apply it, and understand what kind of return we're going to get on that investment. And we've got to know if things aren't working or if they're not meeting the result that we had hoped for. So this is I think one of the things that is incredibly helpful. Does this make sense to everybody?
No.
I love you, Meg. What doesn't make sense?
It's probably because it's business specific, and I'm trying to apply these things to my own business. But so we talked about the first line might be emails, right?
Mm-hmm.
Email contacts. You're talking. What are the next 4 lines? What are they?
Let's see. Let me go back. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. So this was unique visitors. The next one was sessions per month. This was a brand new business.
All right. Okay.
This was page views per session. Okay. This was email subscribers. This was open rate and click-through rate. This was advertisers. So, and as I said, I'll share this document with all of you. Yes?
Eleanor, you're not talking about saying, well, I'm just going to abandon the effort to get more unique visitors. What you're talking about is saying, I'm going to abandon the strategy.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, very, very. Did you all hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not going to abandon that you're going to get advertisers. You're going to abandon the approach that you're doing to get them. So, if you think that you're going to create, I don't know, you're going to get advertisers from a self-service strategy, and you're marketing for self-service to generate leads and get conversions on that. If you're not getting those leads in the door and getting those conversions, you need to adjust that strategy, because you've got to find a way to reach advertisers to get that revenue in-house. So, any other questions on this? Yeah.
So what you're saying is after 90 days, if you have less than 10,000 subscribers, then you determine you should adjust your course.
Yes. Yeah. So on this, so let's assume that this is a strategy to obtain subscribers, right? So if there are less than 10,000
After 90 days.
after 90 days, then the strategy that we were going about to acquire those subscribers needs to adjust.
So the strategy isn't on your spreadsheet, just the results.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Right. Because the goal is here, and that's a great point. So then if we had this strategy to gain subscribers and we only got 5,000, then that strategy to obtain subscribers is probably not a good one, and we should alter it and go with a different strategy. Yes.
One area of conflict would be, though, what if the expectation for the goal just was unrealistic?
Yeah, that's one thing.
I mean, like maybe what you're doing is working, but it was unrealistic for you to get to that point that quickly.
So that's a great
How do you-
question. And so I think if you have an eye on this and you have a lens on this, you really start to figure out whether or not you just did not have a clue as what the result was going to be, and you overshot. You were over optimistic. The other thing that you will realize is if you undershot. And so there is some learning in this. This is not exact. It's really, if you think about this as a tool, a 90-day tool strategy to help you focus and then see where you're gaining results or where you're having impact, knowing that this bakes in some adjustment opportunity. Yes?
Eleanor, it seems like the main issue here is how much effort are you having to expend, or how much revenue how much money are you having to expend in order to achieve the goal? I mean, if it was only costing you 10 cents and you got 1,000 new subscribers, even though your goal was 5,000, well, that's still a win.
Potentially.
But if you were spending $200, or $2,000 to get those subscribers, that extra subscriber may not be worth that much. So you kind of have to know what the value of your additional subscriber is to judge how much you should spend on it too.
That's right. Did you all hear that? So in a sense, that could be accurate. However, let me just flip the coin on this. Let's say that only costs you 20 cents, but it does cost you 40 hours. So if you'll think about, I said we think about return on investment and return on effort. So just because it doesn't cost you anything doesn't mean it didn't cost you anything, which is another notion around entrepreneurship and in businesses that we need to think about. Return on investment and return on effort. So are those subscribers worth 40 hours of work every 30 days? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. You've got to be the gauge of this. Yes?
Our fellow shiny object syndrome. So, do you find yourself, do you start the goal and back into the strategy, or do you find yourself going, I ought to do this thing, and then you find yourself doing the strategy, and then you're sort of tailing in at the goal? Right? And between those two things, what do you find is most effective?
So that's a great question. It's really a great question. And for anyone who suffers shiny object syndrome, trying to manage that is like trying to manage, an addiction to potato chips. It's really something that you have to work through. So I use this strategy this approach to say, hey, I want to try this shiny object. And this 90-day sprint, I'm going to explore whether that's a good idea or not. And then in the next 90-day sprint, if I prove that it's a great idea, we'll do it. So, for example, we wanted to deploy a recruiting strategy. So, in our last sprint, we said, okay, we want to prep for this, and we want to deploy the strategy. So, I'm going to make an investment in an outsourced agency, an outsourced resource, to go with this approach that we think is a good one, and see if this can bake for us. I'm going to do it only for 3 months, and I'm going to invest a small amount of money. So the sprint before that, we prepped to put that strategy together, and then we executed it last sprint. And we learned some good things from it. We learned that there were some elements about it that were really great, and that we weren't going to pay an outsourced person to do that. We needed to adjust how we executed that. So I forced myself to use these sprints to say, okay, I'm going to do 90 days of planning, exploration. Can this be? What is in there? What do I know about folks who are doing it? If it's a business idea or revenue generation and it's not just a no-brainer, I'll say, who is making money with it? How are they making money with it? Is it lasting money? How difficult is it to do? What do I need to put in place to be able to execute it well? Can my team manage it? All of those things. It's a hard discipline. But if you're focused, then you've already got a full plate of things that you're doing for the 90 days that you're in. The second page of this is a task and action list. And so it's one thing to have the goal, but then it's the next thing to say, what am I going to have to do to actually achieve that goal? What goes into that? So this comes back to your question, well, if it only costs me 20 cents, is it worth it? Well, maybe, but if you have to lay out a significant series of tasks and time to accomplish it, you have to evaluate it. So this is going through each goal. What am I going to have to do to line this goal up? What do I have to do to get this set up? And some of this is a little mundane. It can be a little bit like, this is my to-do list, right? But the thing about this, using this strategy, is that it also makes you, can you all see this? It makes you set a beginning and end and a completed date and identify via color if you're on track. So is it at risk? Are you on schedule, or is it completed? And sometimes you'll look at this and go, we started to do this and I thought it was really great, and we started to put these elements in place, and all of this is at risk, and I'm not going to do it. I've just convinced myself that I'm going to save myself the time and the energy, because we're just not going to do this. So it's not saying that you're looking at this color coding so that it's punitive to you. It's not. It's a guide. It's just a tool to help you manage your business a little bit. Okay. So for us, these are our 90-day sprints. They're pretty focused. The first sprint was really infrastructure, so we focused on tools and technology and integrations and websites and all of those things. Our second sprint was communication and relationship. I'm going to be very, time's flying. I want to make sure that we talk about nurture and cultivation. Lead generation, recruiting, and content and training. Our sprint, our first sprint of 2018 is really around content and content generation. But we use these so that we can follow this philosophy of do more of what you love and less of what you tolerate and none of what you hate. Because, for the things that you really hate to do, there are people who are really good at them who love doing them. And they should do them. They'll do them better, faster, and more efficiently than you ever will. But you have to have a return on an investment and a return on your effort for doing that, right? So, like, finance, QuickBooks. Oh, dear God. Anybody should do that but me. So, okay. So when we resource in 90-day sprints, I touched on this a little bit. This also gives you the ability to say, and I don't mean this to sound crass, but you can hire people that you can fire, because you're hiring things on a temporary basis. But also understand that the person that you need today in your 90-day sprint is probably not somebody that you need in the next 90 days. And if they are, you can adjust for that in your plan and resource accordingly. So we use the sprints like dating instead of marriage, right? The next thing, and we're doing a revenue conversation in the next session, so I'm going to kind of speed through this because I really want to get to nurture and cultivation, and we're running out of time. But it is really important in your business to have diverse revenue channels and to prioritize. So let me go back here for just a second in case you don't attend the next session. Think about and make a list of all the things that you're capable of that could be monetized. Everybody in your operation, and you and everybody in your operation, whether you like doing them or not, whether you want to do them or not, because then you can make a list of them, prioritize, and select, and then look at whether or not they are easy to do with high opportunity, or easy to do with low opportunity, or hard to do with high opportunity. So just as an aside, high opportunity but hard to do is usually like the thing that's really sexy. But then in your 90-day sprint, as you start digging into that, you're like, holy crap, this is really hard to do. Okay. So I'm going to get through here very quickly. All right, because I want to talk about generating and cultivating business leads. And there are some great sources and some great approaches to generating and cultivating business leads that are out there. And I'll share with you, I have a resource list for you as well that I'll share, and then it's at the back of this presentation. There are some great sources. We've done a lot of work with some predictive analytics. There are a couple of companies that do great lookalike audience matching that's great for revenue generation. Any nonprofits in the room? Yeah, so there are some great things. Just grab me maybe aside. There are some great things that we've discovered on lookalike audiences, and then just predictive data and consumer data that can help match interest levels down to the household level, and yeah, so there's some great stuff there. And there are some companies that I'll share that are doing some work in that place. It's amazing what we can do. But the overwhelming questions really are, where are you getting all of these leads? Where are they coming from? How do you attract them? Oh my God, how are you going to go approach them? All of those things. So I would say, just back up. And we went through this and we said, let's just back up and let's just simplify it. So let's treat lead acquisition like it's just one big database built. And how can we acquire and then tag and nurture and cultivate and connect and convert and measure? So we just said, let's back up and let's use our CRM as our baseline tool. How many folks have a CRM? How many folks use the CRM you have? Oh, I'm so encouraged by those hands. That's awesome. So our CRM, we went through a major selection process on it. I can text, call, email. I can do everything from one major dashboard. I can see every interaction. I am able to tag all of the things that they have done on our site, all the exchanges that we've had, all the different sources that they've come to us from. Yes?
What does CRM stand for?
Oh, good question. Customer Relationship Management System. Yeah, and it truly is. We do email campaigns out of ours. We do nurture and cultivation campaigns out of ours. And so I'll share a little bit more with you about that as we progress here. But we said, let's just work on getting our contacts. So you all are looking to acquire advertisers and business owners and folks who can create affinity. You're looking for readers and subscribers and a whole plethora of things. Sorry. And all of those people have the ability to interact with you through your multiple channels or your multi-channels. So if you're building a major database of them all and then figuring out how to tag them and how to understand how they came to you and what their activities are once they get with you and what your staff's interactions are with them, you can really then start to sort your business and manage it in a really meaningful way. So, okay. I'm going to speed through this quickly, and I'm going to get here. So we track every source and every interaction from anybody in our base. I'm sorry.
Can you tell us what you're using? Is it Salesforce or what?
There are multiple CRMs. So we actually have two, but we use a CRM that I'm not sure is available to you. That's called Sync. I think it's a little specialized, but I could share with you some of the things that it offers, and you might be able to find it in others. We also use Follow Up Boss. Here's the recommendation that I would make to you in a CRM system. The important things in a CRM system are to really understand your capabilities of managing your business in it. I have been a huge Salesforce fan, but there are other technologies that are actually coming up in the CRM space that make it just a little bit easier and enable you to tactically manage your contacts and your efforts a little bit more. So, but I'm happy to share a list for you. But we track everywhere they came from. We look at what source they came from. We track what they looked at, what they opened, and if they interacted with us in multiple ways. And we tag the crap out of them. So we just grab every interaction and tag them for everything. Our system auto tags, so we know what they're doing. So this is just like this is one of our agents, and this is just the folks that are in her database. And I just grab them. So we can start building lists of what they're doing. And then this is the really big key. We spent a lot of time here, and then I'm going to circle the airport and land the plane. We spent a lot of time building communication lists. Now, we have over 50 because I nested and ate fast food and gained 25 pounds doing this. Don't do that. But having a strategy for how you communicate with the folks who interact with you is really important. So we have a series of communications that go out that from the time. So if they register on our blog, for example, and all we have is an email address for them, we have a series of communications that go out. That's 19 steps. It includes texts, emails that are pre-written and are automated, and then notes that go back to the agent who's assigned to them to make phone calls and what to say. So you don't have to get that intense, but think about your communication with the folks who are in your database, because as you know, in sales statistics, the more you touch them and the more you interact with them, the more opportunity that you have to convert them. And it's all about conversion, right? All right, I'm going to stop there. Any questions?
Wow. Wow. I feel like that guy who's on that tape thing. You're sitting listening to a speaker, and the whole world is whizzing by them.
All right, so you all don't feel like the world whizzed by you, do you?
Notes.
Was it too much? I know 45 minutes is a long. It's a really short period to try to cover a lot of ground. So there's actually more here. So my email address is e@greatlifere. Email me if you want copies of these tools, and or if you want to tell me that you want to know more or you want the presentation. And you can email me and tell me that you hated the presentation and you thought there was no value, because I appreciate the feedback, or anything else. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.